Are you recording?
I am.
Or-
You're recording it.
Yeah.
I'll record the other class.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, what page is it?
65, like right at the bottom, classic to us.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yes, right. So the story was that David had gone to Noiv, or maybe he was near Noiv, and that was his best address to get food. We don't know exactly why he went there specifically. And the only food they had there was either lechem aponim or something like that. Actually, it's very interesting. Just today's Daf Yomi is about this story. I just did it this morning at Daf Yomi. There's a whole discussion about why the debate between David and HaMelech, whether they could use the bread, couldn't use the bread, did they have to be Tanach? To that whole discussion there, what exactly going on? That's today's Daf Yomi. Discussion what was going on.
Daffy Yomi.
You know what Daf Yomi is? Page of Gemara a day. That's what a lot of people learn. And it's like, it takes 7.5 years to finish the whole Talmud Bavli. Do a page a day.
MetLife next year.
Who?
So MetLife next year.
I'll be hidden somewhere. It's a shame. Every time you go into the site, it tells you how many pages there are till the end. 423 pages till the end. So we've been doing it for 5.5 years already.
Wow.
This is your first cycle?
My first cycle, yeah. I do it Rabbi Leader. Every day we do a page.
Ooh.
Try our best. Every day of the year, there's no days off. You know, like Erev Pesach or
Also Shabbos.
Shabbos, Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av. So Tisha B'Av you learn it after Tisha B'Av. You can't learn on Tisha B'Av. But there's no days off.
What about Tanach?
We don't believe in that. It's a Hasidic thing. Anyway, that's only night time. Christmas Eve. No Hasidim don't do it. So you learn in the morning. You learn in the afternoon. You got time. Not the whole 24 hours. Okay, Tisha B'Av is 24 hours. Anyway, so today's page is Menachas Daf 96 B. 96B is about this discussion. Anyway, so he had the bread, and they asked him for some type of weapon if he had. And he says, "Yeah, I'll give you." According to Chazal, he asked the Urim and Tumim. Right, it's not explicit in the text, but that's how we read the text. And he said, "Yes, give it to him," and that's what they did. And then he left. And then David went to Aish, right? Oh, fascinating. The Aish is his real name. But there's a Tehillim. That's what happened. He went to Aish, who was the king of Gas, and there he came with the hope, initial plan, that he would be able to stay there, which needs a little bit of explanation why he thought he'd get away with that. But obviously he thought it was a reasonable plan, okay? But then he was noticed, or people didn't believe his story, whatever it is, and he was in front of the king accused of they wanted to kill him, and the David pretended to be crazy, and then the king threw him out, and that saved David's life. And then he decided, well, obviously Plishtim is not a good idea, so when he go instead, he went to a cave in Adullam. But then the cave became crowded because 400 outlaws had joined his gang, and so he moved with his family to Moab. Then the Navi called Gad,
Family.
what? His father and mother, it says, and probably the rest of his family.
They're all running away with him?
And so it seems. Why they all ran away, it doesn't say. Maybe they felt a threat from Shaul. Knowing David was an outlaw, maybe Shaul would have it for them as well. I don't know. Possible. You would be concerned about that, right? Maybe they just wanted to help David. That's a bit unlikely because it seems that his father and mother were actually more in the way than help. Because when David goes to Moab, which is a neighboring country, he asks the king of Moab to look after his parents, and he agrees whilst David is in Moab. And David is in a fortress in Moab, and that's where he's hiding out. But the Navi comes and tells him to go back to Eretz Yisrael, probably because he thinks it's a bad idea to escape from Eretz Yisrael to save your life, because it's the safest place is to be in Eretz. If you're in danger will get you wherever you are, and the schus of being in Eretz Yisrael is more likely to save you than going anywhere else. So that's probably, I don't know, it doesn't say that in the story, but that's my guess of why the Navi told him to go back there. So he goes to a forest called Ya'ar Cheres. That's where David is. Now the scene goes now to Shaul, right? We don't know exactly when this scene took place. No, because when you change scenes, it could be going back 6 months, right? But we're going now to Shaul's camp, and Shaul is with his closest men under a big tree in Geba, and then he's discussing with them why did nobody tell me that my son Yonasan made a pact with David? Because he did, I suppose Shaul says I'm not careful to give secrets away, and that's how David knew that I wanted to kill him, etc. Now, there's other ways as well, but that confirmed it, and then that was the whole party there that he gave information from it, and Shaul's very upset with why did nobody tell me? Obviously David bribed you, and he promised that he would make you officers and give you fields and vineyards, and nobody told me. Nobody was upset about it, and no one got ill over it, and he's very upset. Okay, so obviously you're all conspiring, and maybe Shaul's basically hinting to them, I see this as your helping David as all part of your insurrection, and you all deserve to have your heads chopped off for joining the enemy. Well, he doesn't say that, but he may be implying that in his accusation. Okay? All right. So one pipes up. Vaya'an Doeg ha'adomi. Doeg ha'adomi, he answered. He called out. Doeg ha'adomi, we've had him once before. On the previous page, who was he?
Oh, he was the
He was the guy.
he was the Edomite.
Yes,
But-
that's very good. Right. Like, who was B'nai Slavchat's father? Right.
He was the one that.
Who was B'nai Slavchat's father?
So
Slavchat, right?
He was the shepherd, correct?
Right. So it says he was the head shepherd of Shaul's Shaul's shepherds.
He was
That's what
the
it says.
shepherd of shepherds.
Yeah, the head shepherd. Close. Yeah, the chief shepherd. That's what it says.
He shepherded the shepherders.
But let's see. He happens to be here in this group of with Shaul with his men. Okay, so it could be he has a shepherd there too. It's strange. Even if King Charles has 2,000 to 3,000 shepherds, it's unlikely when he makes a government in a house discussion he brings a shepherd
Search it
along.
up for everybody.
I know. What did you say? Okay. Anyway, so today they don't have it because King Charles is just a puppet king, he's not a real king. If the real king was a proper government, so you have to have proper ministers, not just a chief shepherd. With all respect to shepherds.
Well, chief shepherd, you could be the minister of agriculture. That's a chief shepherd.
Or chief
Stretch,
farmer.
I hear. Okay. Yeah, and Doeg Ha'adomi.
What were you saying? about-
Chazal say he was the head of the Sanhedrin.
You were saying something about the hill.
What about Tehillim? Ah, right,
Yeah,
thank you for
it's
telling me.
a
Tehillim,
Tehillim.
yes.
On Shabbos.
One of the Tehillims we say on Shabbos, yes. It says, what's the Tehillim? How does it start? It's the Tehillim that goes according to Aleph base. And it starts off by, yeah. No, that's one of them. There's another one. There's another one we say on Shabbos morning that goes according to Aleph base. You probably never noticed it, but it does, right? Except for the Vav, it's a book for cheating. It also goes a Vav there as well. It says, the David Mizmar David b'Shanoi says Tam Lifnei HaMelech Vayevarocheu Vayelach Avarochas Hashem. Here it is. Yeah, Psalm 34.
Yep.
Psalm 34. It's not because I know Psalm. It's just I saw it yesterday, so I happen to remember it from yesterday. Le David. This is a psalm composed by David. B'Shanoi Estahamai, when he disguised his sanity.
I thought the hill was written prior, while he was still a shepherd.
Who told you that? Okay, she thought wrong.
Most of them are by David, but there's somebody.
Well, he hasn't. Yeah, that's true. But he has another question. The one he assumed the ones David made was when he was a shepherd. I know.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, that's the way it's imagined. He's sitting there with his flute, and he's got his head over his lap like this, and he's leaning against a tree, right? And the sheep are there grazing, and David's inspired by the beauty of creation, and he's maybe it was, but some of Tehillim are clear, and lots of Tehillim. One's about Avshalom's rebellion, one's about the sin of Bathsheba. So there's a lot of ones about Shaul. So this is this story when David fled from Avimelech by pretending to be crazy. After that, he composed this thing. I think it was straight afterwards, I have no idea. But this story inspired him to write this Tehillim. When he disguised his sanity before Avimelech. Now, it's called Avimelech because that's the generic name for the king of Philistia. Just like the generic name for the king of England is king, right? Or maybe it's called Henry,
It's a title,
right?
Or is it like-
I'm not sure if it's like king or it's like Henry.
like Leo for popes.
Right, exactly. So Henry the First, second, third, fifth, eighth, there's so many of them, right? So the fact it's not his real name, right? His name, what was his name? I remember watched the film. What's it called? The King's Speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there, the king is called. Oh,
Well,
his real name was David.
Yeah, but he's King George.
Right. So his
George-
real name, his Christian name, he had like 5 or 6
regal
names.
name.
What?
but no,
His regal name?
Yeah, it's a regal name. So they have a regal name and his real
That's
name.
it. Sort of
So the
like-
same thing over here. Or it just means king. Just means so you have Kaiser,
like you do.
right? And you have Julius
like
Caesar.
you
Caesar
do.
just means king.
Yeah.
Okay, but his real name was
If
Aish.
you-
Same that it says in our story. His name was Aish. And here it says, and he
Okay.
drove him out and he left. And then he says, I shall bless Hashem at all times. See, you remember? You know this? Aleph base. What's that? Aleph base. Only the Vav's not here. The Vav is a bit of a kvetch because it says, Hibitu elav v'naharu, ufnehem al yechporos. The Vav is the second half of the sentence of Hey. There's a Vav. It's a bit of a kvetch. Anyway, that's what it is. That's the Aleph base. Okay? So that's the Tehillim that was composed in the wake of this story. Vaya'an Doeg v'Adomi. Doeg the Edomite answered, or he called out, V'hu nitzav al avdei Shaul. He is standing at attention over the servants of Shaul. So it could be that because he was the chief shepherd, so he happened to be a butler as well. So he just happened, the servants are there, and he's not part of the group. He's just somebody standing there around, and he pipes them. Could be. Or it could be he's in charge of the Avdei Shaul, which means that he's more important, not just more in charge of the sheep, right? He's in charge of the servants of Shaul. So that's the contradiction between these two stories. Here it says that he was in charge of the sheep. He was the head shepherd, and here he's standing over the servants of Shaul.
We also said that another interpretation was that he was like the spiritual leader.
Right, so that's...
You wouldn't think that a spiritual leader would be on top of the servants.
No, servants doesn't mean slaves. No. In the king, everybody's a servant. It means the ministers.
Yeah.
He's the prime minister.
So he's the prime minister, right, exactly. Or he's the head of the Sanhedrin, which is probably a very similar position, right? Okay. An advisory body, just a spiritual advisory body. No, they've got to give him permission to whatever. Okay. All right. And he said, he spilled the beans. Ra'isi es ben Yishai. I saw ben Yishai bar Noive come to Noiv. So he's now telling the story that we had in the previous chapter that David comes to Noiv and HaMelech helps him. El HaMelech ben Achitov to HaMelech. Now we know his father's name. Right? So the Malbim points out several slight variations from the original way the story was quoted by the author of Shmuel. Now you assume that the reason for the difference is intentional. Right?
Who was the author?
Shmuel HaNavi. Shmuel up to the point where he dies. He doesn't write. The rest is prophetic. Right? But the point, no.
I didn't know what he didn't write it all.
That's a bit silly. First of all, the Gemara says so. That would mean it's a writer. Would he have to be prophetic? Now I know he was a prophet, right? But still, we don't generally find prophets writing books with detailed verses about the future. You know, when you read prophecy, it's always very, very vague. It doesn't say, and so said to so and so, and he went up and he did as follows. Never says that in prophecy. Understand? It's always, on a cloud, and riding on a horse, and.
So how was he able to write like the original things the parts that he wasn't there for?
That would have to be prophetic, I agree, but I'm just saying it's not normal. I didn't say he couldn't do it. That's not what I said. I didn't say he couldn't do it. He could. It's just not normal. It's just you'd have to find precedent to suggest that that's what was going on. You find a prophet write a story about the future, and then he got it all perfectly right. Anyway, the Gemara says so explicitly. The Gemara Babasa says up to the point where he died, and that the rest was written by.
Is he dead already?
What? Not here. No, he's alive. Right? We mentioned that yesterday.
He was running with David.
No, he was at home. Right?
He was home running.
You asked yesterday whether you slept during the class, right? So all your questions are a giveaway because you talked about this yesterday. Yeah, it says that Shaul is under the tree in Ramah. So he asked, give on Ramah to different places. Right, remember that? So he said the tree there means Shmuel, who's the protective tree who lives in Ramah. So long as Shmuel was alive, Shaul had his spiritual energy going. All right, so what happened? So the Malbim is important. Again, Shmuel wrote the book, but then he's telling us precisely what. Now, when a person says the story, you can't always, nuance. People talk, not necessarily accurately, right? On the other hand, there's no reason why Shmuel should quote the story in different details than. So why didn't he write the story like that? If you look carefully, you see that the author of Shmuel, or Shmuel the book, is writing it different than the way he's telling now. The first difference is we never knew who HaMelech's father was. It never mentioned his father. It just said HaMelech HaKohen, or HaKohen, or HaKohen. The whole time he's calling him a Kohen, and here he calls him a name. So the Malbim points out all these slight differences are all in order to make the story more credible and more, making HaMelech more culpable than the real story. Means if you use a name, that's obviously HaMelech is being by collaborating with David is going to be accused of treason, right? But if he's just a kohen and it's just his job and there's no personal connection between him and David, why should you accuse him? But once you put his name into it, he's a real person who's maybe a friend of David. It's a name, not just a kohen. So Shaul didn't lie. I mean, what's his name? Doeg didn't lie in the story, but every slight nuance is there for a reason to make it more, because he doesn't like David. Okay, all right. Achimelech ben Achitov. Vayishal loy b'Hashem. And he asked God. Oh, what didn't he ask God?
Urim
Tumim. So this is where Chazal get it from, that's what it meant before as well. You see, you can't just make up a story completely, because he'll deny that. If Shaul says, why did you ask the Urim Tumim? Why listen to them? Who do you get it from? Nobody's going to lie, what's called a white lie, right?
Yeah.
Where it can be simply, it will be denied. But what he did
It's not a
do,
white lie.
right? No, what's not a white lie?
White lie is like a lie that doesn't matter.
So this is opposite. This is like a very clear lie. So he didn't know. So obviously if he says that he asked what he did, but you'll notice that it's slightly different. Here it says, Vayishal loy b'Hashem, v'tseidah nosan loy. Tseidah means provisions. Now is that true? He didn't ask the Urim B'Tumim before he gave him to eat. Only for the sword. Now that is also making him more culpable. That means he couldn't have been that hungry. If David was starving, you wouldn't have to ask the Urim B'Tumim when you give him to eat. Right? But if you have to ask the Urim B'Tumim, obviously he's in that category. No, you say, you have to ask Hashem, Hashem told me. Right? But he didn't have to ask Hashem when he gave him to eat because David was starving. Right? So that's also been changed. Vayishal loy b'Hashem, and Vayishal Shoel means to ask a question. So he asked God, meaning he asked the way the Kohen asked God. V'tseidah nosan loy, I gave him provision. That's also different. He gave him provisions. Well, he went in the kitchen and gave him a box of cornflakes? No, he didn't. He gave him the lechem upon him. So obviously he must have been starving. But no Kohen would ever dream of giving lechem upon him to a guy who's not a Kohen unless he was starving to death. So if he's starving to death, he's not to blame Achimelech for giving David something he was starving to death, right? So that's also changed it. He didn't say exactly what it was.
It's not changing.
Yes, but it's not saying the whole truth. It's saying a half-truth in order to make it more liable, culpable. V'escherev Goliath haplishti nosan loy, and the sword of Goliath he gave him. Okay, it doesn't say that David asked for it. Okay, just gave it to him. Again, all these slight nuances are there to make Achimelech more believable. Vayishlach, and that's what he does. So I think the Malbim points out there's 4 points. A, that he mentions his father. B, they asked Hashem before. 3, that he gave Seder and not lechem upon him. And 4, that he doesn't say that he asked for the bread. He just, out of the sword, he just gave it to him. Okay. Vayishlach, otherwise you'd say, well, basically it's the real story, yeah? But notice the difference. Vayishlach HaMelech, and the king called Likroi to call. The king sent Likroi to call as Achimelech ben Achitov HaKoyen.
They spelled his
No.
name differently.
Wait.
Where was it spelled?
With the Yud, Achitov.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Wait, where's call? The king's sin.
Likro, to call. Kara,
Oh.
Kuf Reish Aleph is to call.
I thought that was a name.
No. He called, the king sent to call Achimelech. He adds on that he was a Kohen. You understand? Because as far as the king is concerned, being a Kohen is important. Whereas Doeg purposely missed it out because he wants to make it more friendly, just uses his name. There's call base Aviv HaKohenim, and he called the whole of his father's house the priests. So the king doesn't see this as just Achimelech. What, you think Achimelech's the only one who's collaborating with David, right? Probably all the priests there are not taking any risks, you understand? Asher b'Noiv, who are in Noiv. Not all the Kohanim in the country, but all the Kohanim in the town of Noiv, which was the town where the Mishkan was. Vayavoyu kulam el HaMelech, and they all came to the king. Okay? V'yomei Shaul, and Shaul said, Shema na ben Achitov, listen now, please, probably now, Ben Achitov, doesn't call him by first name, that's a very derogatory thing, to miss that person's name and call him by his family name, right? Coleman, yeah? Right? No, his name's Dylan, that's much more friendly. So although he ordered them to bring Achimelech ben Achitov, when he actually addresses him face to face, he shows his displeasure, I guess, by calling him by his family name. Shema no ben Achitov. Hineni Adoni. Hineni means here I am, but it means here I am ready to do your bidding. That's what it means. It doesn't mean I'm here. Yeah? It means I'm ready to do whatever you ask. My master.
Right, and Adoni?
Adoni, my master.
All right.
Like Hashem's name. And that's with a comma to the end. This is my master. Elov Shaul. Shlomo said to him, Lama kishartem alai. Why did you conspire against me? Kishartem, we use it to tie, right? To tie tefillin, okay? Kishartem noise, but it means to tie to when people get together to make an agreement to do harm to somebody. Lama kishartem alai, why did you plot or conspire against me? Ata, you, uben Yishai, the son of Yishai. Besitcha loy lechem. Latet means to give. Besitcha, in your giving. Tet, give. Sitcha, your giving. Besitcha, in your giving. Means this is the proof. This is my proof that you conspired against it, because you gave him lechem, bread, v'cherev, and a sword. He didn't mention that it's Goliath's sword. I don't know why. I suppose there's a reason. And you asked, you inquired God. It was so important to help David that you had to ask God whether you should do it. Lakume lie, to get up against me, la'oirev, as a ambush, as it is today. Means the situation we have today, which is a few weeks or months further along the line, where all these people, David's first gone to Philistine, and then he's gone to the cave, and then he's gone to Moab, and now he's back in, now they know where he is. All that's taken time. You imagine it's probably taken about a year, all that, but it doesn't look like there's enough time for it to take that time. But it's no idea how long. It could have been taking him 2 days to get to Pelishtim, and another 3 days to go back to the cave, and 2 more days. We don't know how long it is. There's no indication. So it could be anywhere from a week to a year. All right? But that's the situation today, that he's an outlaw, and he's got this gang of people who are outlaws, and it's all your fault. But you were the one who, at a critical moment, helped him escape, gave him provisions. And Achimelech is like absolutely shocked, no idea what you want from my life, right? He has no, now maybe it makes a lot of sense that David was lying all the way through, but at the time he had no idea, which is his defense. Achimelech said to the king, he answered to the king, and this is what he said, Umi b'chal avodecha keDavid ne'ema. What he's about to say is, David is your most trustworthy servant. How am I supposed to know when I help? Of course I help him. I would have thought you would want me to help him because he's your most trustworthy officer. Obviously, I should get a prize for helping, not be punished. Me and who? Whom? B'chal avodecha, amongst all your servants. Again, servants just means, right? Those who serve the king. David is like David. Ne'ema means loyal, very good. Like we say, God is someone who we can trust. Yeah, someone you can trust. Who in all your servants is as trustworthy as David? That's one point. Second of all, Shaul HaMelech, and he is the son-in-law. The son-in-law of the king. So he's both a very trustworthy servant of yours. Second of all, he's your son-in-law. Third point, V'sar el mishma'atecha. Now the root, sar means to turn, as in sor meira. Means he turns el mishma'atechem. The root of the word mishma'atechem is the word shema. Okay? Shema, which means to hear. But in the word mashma'at means discipline. It's a word used in modern Hebrew, right? A teacher who can't control a class, right, has got a bayash el mishma'at, because people are not listening to the teacher's instructions. So it's the word shema, to listen. So it means who turns to your obedience. Means not only is he your trustworthy servant to carry out your commands, right? He's your son-in-law. He also is disciplined, right? To your, he'll only similar to Naaman, right? But he's obedient. That's the word, obedient, not just trustworthy, obedient. And that's through v'nichbad b'beisecha. He is respected in your household. So those are 4 different reasons why I would have thought that it was exactly the right thing to do when David comes. I should suspect him of running away from the king. Crazy. It's true. It's a bit strange. He was coming on his own. I should. Okay, we had a good story. Okay. Hayoim hachiloisi lishol loy beiloikim today, Hayom is today, Hachiloisi. Any idea what that means? Hachiloisi. It's related to the word lehatchil. Lehatchil means? Lehatchil. Matayas man matchil. Everybody speaks over here. Matayas man matchil. When does man start? Lehatchil means to start. Okay? Is today, did I start Lishal Beilakim? You're accusing me. How dare you use the Urim V'Tumim for some jerk like David, right? I mean, obviously you're conspiring with him, a collaborator, the fact that you respect David so much that you're prepared to, you can't, if I go to the Kohen God and I say, can you tell me how to invest my money, right? You're not going to use the Urim V'Tumim, you may advise me, but not ask you. Urim V'Tumim can only be used for the king or the head of the army, right? So Shaul saying, why are you helping David or asking them to? He says, this is not the first time. I've often asked for David because David is one of the heads of the army. I don't know if it's the head of the army, like his real head of the army. What is the guy called? No. What was his name? No, that was David's army. No. Ben-Ner. Avner, right? Avner. Okay, so but he was higher up enough in the army to be a regular visitor in the Mishkan to ask questions on behalf of the king. So that's what he's saying. Today, was this the first time Lisha Beilakim that I asked God? So what are you accusing me of? Chalil Ali, God forbid. Literally, we say Chalil means God forbid. Literally means it was profane. Chalila from the word chal. You accusing me of something profane to that I would help one of your enemies. That David is an enemy of yours. Al Yasem HaMelech be'avdoi davar. The king should not. Again, you don't say lie to the king, right? Which should be a command. No, you're nice. You say please. No, right? Al Yasem HaMelech be'avdoi. The king should not place against his servant, that's himself, davar, a matter, b'chol beis avi, against my whole family, certainly not against the whole family, even if you accuse me, it's only me, but what did they do with it, right? So don't make any accusations against me, or certainly not the whole family. Ki lo yoda avdecha b'chol zois, your servant did not know anything in this whole thing. This whole thing is hard. Now it could be true. Now you say that David's run away. Look, we know David's not been around for a long time, and there's news that he's with his band of outlaws hiding in a cave. Yes, we heard that news, but we didn't know. We didn't hear anything about it. It's not that he doesn't know about it now, but then we didn't know. Davar Gadol, a cotton, a Gadol, small or big, we didn't know anything about it. Okay, so he's defended himself. I don't know what the answer to this is, but you notice that when they asked the Urim V'Tumim, when Doeg said, it says Vayishaloi B'Hashem, using Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. But when he says, it uses the word Elokim. When Shaul said it, no, even when Shaul said it, Shaul Loi B'Elokim Pasuk Yud-Gimel. He says Shaul Loi B'Elokim. So I don't know the significance of that. I know usually one denotes Midas Adin and Midas Arachim, but in the story, I presume one's more accusatory, but then why does Shaul change it back to the other way? If Doeg said that, why shouldn't Shaul believe that? Tough. Melech, he doesn't accept the story. Mois tamus, you shall surely die. Now, is this acceptable? I'm not saying is it right. Obviously, it's wrong because he didn't plan it. But from Shaul's perspective, is Shaul a villain? Is Shaul a thug? Is Shaul a murderer for doing this? Or is he saying, look, that's your version of the story. That's his version of the story. I can't take any risks. Right? You. What?
Hearsay.
Why wouldn't you go to the Sanhedrin?
Well, basically, he was. First of all, the king doesn't have to go to the Sanhedrin. The king has a different set of laws.
The person that originally accused him was
should the king?
That's also true. So it wouldn't have helped.
Should the king go to the Sanhedrin?
Maybe not. This a king. Well, I mean, look, the Sanhedrin will say you don't have evidence. He says that, yes, you judge by laws with evidence. That's what the Sanhedrin needs. I'm a king. I have to make law and order. Right? And if everything will run by the rules of the Sanhedrin, then murderers will get away with murder. Right? And we've mentioned this many times. All you have to do is murder women in a women's institution, and there'll be no witnesses. There'll be no kosher witnesses, right? Because women are posoleidos, so you can get away with murder, right? Half the population, no one ever will. So obviously there must be some system that allows us to put criminals to death, even if there's no absolute normal evidence. You know, fingerprints, right, are not normal evidence by halacha. Circumstantial evidence are not really admissible in Sanhedrin, right? But when Sanhedrin have to use it, they'll use what's called the king's law, and the king certainly has the right to do it. The Rambam says clearly, the king has the right to put to death, especially murderers, based on the testimony of women, of goyim, of a single evidence, of circumstantial evidence. The king has the right to put people to death. So certainly, if the accusation is not, this is worse than murder, right? This is anarchy. This is insubordination, right? This is treason, right? And so, look. Who do I believe? I hear your service. I hear, as far as he doesn't know that Doeg is a big Russia. If Doeg is as Chazal said, the head of the Sanhedrin, you'd think that he had good credentials. He knew the whole of Shas, and he knew all Yabir Omer, and he tells me that this is the story, and I believe his version more than your version of the story.
He's also becoming gadol. It's not like he's.
Therefore,
I'm saying it's not. Yeah, never mind.
I mean, he's held to a higher standard, but they have to be wrong first. You know what I mean? Yeah. According to HaMelech's version of the story, he should be given a medal for doing it, not punished. Anyway, but that's why I think you have to look at it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I know that Chazal look at Shaul as a tzaddik. Okay? I have a grandson called Shaul. We don't name people after Haman, right? Or Avshalom even. We don't use the names of Rishonim. Avshalom was one of David's sons. Right, we don't use the names of Rishonim. We don't call people Esav or Nimrod.
Of Rishonim?
Rishonim, with evil people.
Oh, Rush.
Right? So, and Chazal clearly view Shaul as a big tzaddik. There's in one place in the Medrash where David calls Shaul, gives him blanks, in Tehillim somewhere, he's a derogatory term. And David says, that's how you talk about my tzaddik. I'll show you what big tzaddik Shaul is. I have actually a small book called Shaul Bechir Hashem. Shaul, the choicest one of God, and there he explains Chazal's view on Shaul. So clearly he was mistaken, made mistakes, which is why he lost the kingship. But that doesn't make you into Russia just because the guy makes a mistake. It was a mistake of what we call shikol hadas, of how to apply the rules. It wasn't. So that's why I think that's the reason why you have to look at this story this way. That yes, he was wrong, but you can understand. I don't think justify is the right word, but you can understand what his considerations are. Besides that, is he in a black mood? I don't doesn't say it was. So I don't know if it could be. I don't know. I don't think you need to say that in order to explain why the law puts its foot down at the possibility of rebellion, of anarchy, of insubordination. You just can't take any risks, because if you don't do that, you're going to have civil war. Yes, he's mistaken in all his calculations because there's no reason for a civil war. David loves you. Why against David? Can't give him a big hug and I'm going to be okay. Right? That's the truth. He doesn't know that. Okay. And the king said to the Rotzim. Now, Rotzim are people who run. Right? You may have seen these big notices outside. Am Yisrael Ratz. Right? It's the marathon on Friday. Right? So that's tomorrow.
Runs.
Right?
Yeah.
I think my son's going to run again. Yeah. My son Mati.
How long?
I think he's doing 10 kilometers.
No.
So you're running?
I'm going to.
You're going to Tel Aviv, aren't you?
No, I did the Tel Aviv.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah, that was 2 months ago in February.
The whole thing?
It was
42 kilometers?
Yeah.
It was the
No
day
training.
before the war.
That was crazy.
Wow.
Was it really? That's what
I remember Johnny did it. And
No,
he
Johnny
did
got-
it,
You did the whole thing?
Yeah. I did somehow. And I literally made the last train back to Jerusalem for Shabbos by like a few minutes.
You got so.
It was actually such a.
And then
I did some unkosher
Wait,
things
didn't
to
the war
get to it.
start?
The war started the
Sorry,
day
that
after.
Shabbos.
At Shabbos, Shabbat.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny stayed.
Yeah, because he couldn't do. I couldn't.
Yeah,
do it.
Johnny got stuck in
Stay.
Jerusalem.
No, in
I-
Tel Aviv. He got stuck
Oh,
in
in
Tel Aviv.
Which Johnny?
Johnny.
The redhead.
Right,
He's-
did
he's
you
here
see the British
sometimes.
guy from like Luton?
Jonathan Speed.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Yes, Anderson.
Oh, you did the marathon?
Yeah, and he's doing half tomorrow. But like we
Oh, he's doing
literally.
the half marathon tomorrow.
Yeah.
So where can you go to cheer people on? It's coming past Shariat from here?
No, they're entering Shar Yafo and exiting through Shar Tzion. They're following the road.
And it starts at
It's
5
gonna be
a.m.
closed, Shatzion.
Starts where?
It's gonna
5
be
a.m.
closed, Little Tizzy.
I
Here?
don't know if it's going to be closed, lockdown. I'm
Get
sure.
out.
I'm sure there's going to be like a little walkway for non-marathoners.
I mean, I do a 10k, 7k run every Friday anyway. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cross paths with the marathon.
6 miles around the old city.
No, it's like 4.5 kilometers. But then I run to the mikvah. I missed a run yesterday, so I'm going to do it twice.
Okay, let's go back to the story. Okay, so only talked about that because there's rots here. Okay, so the king says to the rotzim, to the runners, and nitzavim, that's interesting. Nitzavim means to stand at attention. So they were a moment standing attention, but their job is to run. Who are standing all around him, so his runners, his messengers. Soibu. Soibu means go around. Like a sevivon, right, which goes dreidel. V'hamisu, and kill. Koyanei Hashem, the priests of God.
What?
So Shaul is aware of what he's doing. He calls them priests of God. Maybe it's like you're saying. Therefore, they're being held to in a higher standard. Other people, okay, but these priests, they should know better. They're priests of God. Ki gam yodam im David, because their hand is also with David. It's not just HaMelech who he's accusing. He's accusing all the priests of Noiv, I presume. Or all the priests who were there. V'chi yodu, that they knew. Surely they knew. Ki bayreyachu, that he was fleeing. And that's like a big jump in it. But they might have known, right?
But isn't...
If you don't put your foot down, then somebody else is going to do the same thing.
But if he knows he has the Urim V'Tumim, and Urim V'Tumim said help David, so he was following the orders from Hashem. So surely that's, if you follow...
I suppose the answer to that is, I mean, it's a very good question. Yeah, it was bothering me as I was reading it beforehand. I didn't know how I was going to address it, but now that you've asked it, I think the answer is as follows. Which is
Freestyle.
that.
Mafakir.
You remember when Ailey, first day on the job, got the message wrong,
Yeah.
right? Ailey's first on the job, he asked the Urim V'Tumim, why is this woman acting like this? And the letters that shone up were Kaf, Shin, Reish, Hey, which meant Kesara, because she's like Sarah, which means she has no children. But he read it as Shikora, which means she is drunk. Right?
She is wrong.
She is drunk.
Drunk.
Right? So that he said to her, stop drinking wine. Right? She says, I'm not drunk, I just have no children. Right? So you can misinterpret it. You can even misinterpret prophecy. You know that?
Your fault.
No, well, yes. Let me explain this. I'll give you an example. Very, very important idea. Kairach accused Moshe Rabbeinu of making up his appointments. Look, the problem with the Kairach story is that everybody knew the whole purpose of the revelation at Sinai was to establish Moshe Rabbeinu's credentials. That was the point. It says so in the Chumash. Why am I coming down house to you? I don't give the Torah, because in any case they didn't get the Torah, they got the Ten Commandments, right? But in many cases, the vast majority of the Torah is given to Moshe Rabbeinu quietly in heaven, right? So God had given the rest of it as well. No, but he had to first of all prove that Moshe Rabbeinu could be trustworthy. So he does this whole thing that God should call to Moshe Rabbeinu and start talking to him. So obviously, if God does that, they had to see that. In truth, they didn't actually have to hear the Ten Commandments at all. And God's original plan, if you read the story properly, was not that they should hear the Ten Commandments. So they should just hear God speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's all. But then they said, no, we want to hear God speak to us. Okay, you want to hear God speak to us? Fine, no problem. Then you have to border off the mountain. You have to keep away from women for 3 days. And then when they actually heard the Ten Commandments, they died of shock. And God said, and Moshe Rabbeinu God revived them. So that was a change of plan. So once Moshe Rabbeinu's credentials were established, how could Kairach then challenge Moshe Rabbeinu? It was like, it's stupid. Didn't everybody know that Moshe Rabbeinu was trustworthy? So I heard it's not I did. I heard it from my mashgiach, but he said the name of Shach, who said in the name of the Maral Diskin. Maral Diskin was the Rav of Yerushalayim about 150 years ago. Rabbi Shmuel Diskin. He writes, there's actually a fascinating story which we'll get to later on, maybe in Malachim. No, it's Malachim base. So we'll see how we'll get there. Yeah, where the Jews, something happens. The Jews find a Sefer Torah in the Holy of Holies, which is open up to a certain point. Open up to the Teichach. The Teichach is the warning as what's going to happen if you serve Avodah Zarah. You're going to go into exile. You're going to go into exile. Now the Sefer Torah, which was kept in the Holy of Holies, the reason why they found it is because they were doing renovations in the basement. Right? And they found this Sefer Torah which had been hidden, and it's usually open at the beginning. It's rolled to the beginning to Bereshit. That's how it's kept. And here it was open to this place, and they were shocked about this because they had all these terrible predictions. So they wanted to know what's God's message. So it says in the Navi that they sent a delegation to a woman prophetess called Huldah. It says in this text, Huldah Navi. And Chazal ask, why sent to Huldah? Wasn't Jeremiah alive at the time? Jeremiah is a much more famous, much greater prophet, not because he's a man, just because he's much more well known. You would have thought they would address it, a king would address this question to Jeremiah. So Chazal answer that they felt that a woman would give a better interpretation. You know, women don't see things as much softer, right? And women see things as pink, men see everything as grey. And that's what Chazal say. As a woman, she would interpret the prophecy softer. So the Maral says, isn't that silly? It's like burying your head in the sand, like an ostrich, right? You know, if God said this is going to happen, it's going to happen. You have to find a woman to interpret it nicely. So obviously, there are different ways to interpret prophecy, and it will happen that way. I mean, God gives a message. It's not necessarily 100% clear exactly what he's doing. Especially often the prophecy is given as a picture, and the prophet has to interpret it. And within reason, the prophet has the ability to interpret it one way or another, within reason, and it will happen the way the novel predicts it, because otherwise the novel will lose its credibility if it doesn't happen the way the novel predicts it.
What does that do with us?
Slowly.
Did we just say that you could read prophecy wrong?
No, rega. Yeah. So that, according to the Maral Diskim, is what Korach was accusing Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu appointed Aaron as the high priest. Now, God didn't tell them. God told Moshe Rabbeinu, so you have to trust Moshe Rabbeinu. And he appointed Elitzaphan ben Uziel, who was Korach's older cousin, as the head of the tribe of Kahas, which is really what bothered Korach.
Of Kahas?
Kahas was Levi was divided into three parts: Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. And Korach and Elitzaphan ben Uziel were descendants of Kahas. Elitzaphan ben Uziel was appointed as the head of that section of Levi, and that's what bothered Korach, because he felt that he should have been. He was a big Talmid Chacham, he was very wealthy, very well-to-do, and he was the son of an older brother. And he felt that he should have that position. That's what bothered him. So what Korach was hinting to, he didn't say it clearly, was that Moshe Rabbeinu was interpreting the prophecy the way he wanted. Because God gave a message. Yes, clearly God trusts you, yeah? And God gives you a message, but you wanted that. And because you wanted it like this, that's why you felt this was the... I'm not saying you're a liar. I'm not saying you made up the whole thing. But there's a certain element of interpretation that goes into prophecy, and that's why you interpret it. Because you wanted to make Aaron your thing, and you wanted Elitzaphan to be the thing. That's why you interpret it. If you'd wanted me, then you would have interpreted it. We're not accusing you of just making it up. When Moshe Rabbeinu says to Korach that if you die normally, right, that will mean I just made it up. And if God makes this great miracle, that'll mean that I didn't make it up. So the words make it, doesn't say the words make it up in Hebrew. Hebrew says, Ki lo mi libi. It's not from my heart. So usually that's thought to mean, I just made it up. So the Maral doesn't mean that. What Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, I don't need to interpret my prophecy. You're misunderstanding the level of my prophecy. Other prophets like Jeremiah and Huldah and all these people, they have to get the message of God and they interpret it. So there's leeway of how I can interpret it. God speaks to me like two friends speak. It says bear, like a person speaks to his friend. There's no room to interpret when you're speaking face to face with someone. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Korach. Yes, I got my credentials at Har Sinai, but there wasn't established how clear my prophecy was. And when I say something, God said to me, appoint Aaron, he's word for word, I did exactly what God told me to do. So that's why I'm saying it could be the same thing, that just like there's in normal prophecy there's room for interpretation, the same could be with the Urim and Tumim. Even if you're experiencing, don't get it wrong, let's say, but there's room for interpretation. What exactly did God mean you should do? Because you wanted to help David and you sided with him and you're part of his conspiracy, when you read the Urim and Tumim, you read it that way. Maybe. Not bad.
It's not prophecy though.
No, it's what's clearer than prophecy or less clear, I'm not sure. It's like a weaker form than prophecy, I would imagine.
I would assume the opposite.
You using a
Say-
tractor?
It's a yes or no question. He asked him a yes or no question.
How do you know? I don't know what he said. I mean, yeah.
You know.
Said Loy, said Ken. There's no word yes in Hebrew. So I don't know exactly what it said. Okay? All right, I think we'll put a stop there. Where you go to?
Go on the line.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the pasuk. So he said to all these people to kill the priests of Hashem, Kigam Yodam, because their hand was on V'chi Yodu, and they knew Kibarech, they knew who was running away. But like God Lewis says, they didn't tell me. Means that not only did they help him, they didn't come and tell me afterwards. But like Ovu, this is interesting. But like Ovu Avdei HaMelech, Ovu means to want or to agree. The servants of the king did not agree. He said, no, we're not going to do it. Wow.
Killing him anyways.
Maybe we should kill them now. The Shaul's servants disobeyed. You know, and that's acceptable as well.
They're not talking about the Kohen.
No. He's talking about the servants. He means there's nitzavim. I mean, it's a good question why it's changed the term. Now that's also acceptable in certain circumstances to disobey orders. When you believe, obviously you have to prove it in a court martial, right? When you can prove that the officer's orders are, what's the word? Clearly unreasonable, then you should refuse. And that's exactly what they're doing. You know, your officer tells you, I want to block the hospital. So usually you just do it because the officer knows that the Hamas have got all their rockets in the hospital, right? But when that's unreasonable, I don't know where the rules are, because the officer doesn't have to tell you his calculation. You just have to listen, right? But you know, the officers light my cigarette on Shabbos. If an Israeli officer tells one of his subordinates to do that, so then he has the right to refuse, right? Because why do I need to light a cigarette? You know, and I mean, if so unreasonable, because there's a secret message inside, and that's how I'm going to do it. That's unreasonable, But I don't know how you make the rules, But that's what they did, and it's never held against him. Shaul didn't hold it against his servants refusing orders. Doesn't? So I would expect him. No, he doesn't. I hear. You disagree with me. What?
Immediately he
doesn't do anything. They didn't want to send their hand, livgoa. Livgoa means to harm. The Kohen, Hashem, the priest of God. Maybe it'd been somebody else who would have done it. But to kill priest of God for helping David.
It could also be because they don't believe it.
Yeah, it could be several reasons, but it stresses, it could be. I don't know why it stresses. It could be part of the calculation is, even if they're wrong, it's one thing to kill a regular Jew, it's another thing to kill a priest.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's Shaul going to do? I don't know. Find out on Sunday.
Good.